You're watching Ed's Tech Tips, powered by the Captivated by Crosley crew. Today we're talking about why buying a Crosley just makes sense, and why they're such great cars to own.
Hello, we are the two Eds. Actually, I'm Dennis, and the other Ed is Ted from Captivated by Crosley. We're pleased to present this presentation to you in partnership with the Crosley Car Owners Club as well. Crosley Car Owners Club, CCOC, has been in operation for well over 2 decades, and we're great. We have a great partnership starting with them. We have two goals at Captivated by Crosley. The first one is to promote the Crosley brand. And the second one is to keep our cars on the road through parts availability and just helping people keep their cars running. To address these goals, all of our publications, etc., membership is free. We charge nothing to be a part of our Captivated by Crosley group. Today's topic is why buy a Crosley. And our goal here is basically to get other people to think about buying a Crosley as a project car, a partnership with your family, a project with your kids, because it's easy to get into and not very expensive. Ted and I have put down a few ideas regarding why buying a Crosley and with some stories on what happened to us and how we got basically connected and collected and even more or less imprisoned by the Crosley brand. First, I'd like to show you some models that Crosley represents. The first model is a coupe. Now, the models changed in 2 different years, basically, from 46 to 48, and then changed from 49 to 52 when they went out of business. But the coupe is basically a model that existed in 46. The second one is the most popular, probably, is called a Hotshot or a Super Sport, a two-seater sports car. This was America's first sports car. Yes, it beat out the Stingray, rather the Corvette. The third one is the most popular model, is a station wagon or a sedan delivery used by small businesses. And that sedan delivery was the most popular, selling the most, I think, 88,000 in 1948. And then the last one is a pickup. Pickup's pretty rare. Sort of looks like they just cut the back of the station wagon off with a sawzall. And the final one that we don't have a picture of is a Farmer Road, which is like a small miniature Jeep. The Crosley cars are really small, about 46 inches from door handle to door handle, and maybe about 11 feet long. So it's a pretty small vehicle. As I said, Ted and I put some ideas to have you consider buying a Crosley for your family, for a partner, for a project, whatever, maybe to keep you in the garage away from your other family members. Ted, let's see. First of all, I want to say that neither of us are experts. And as Ted pointed out to me recently, Crosleys are a learning experience. You keep on learning. There's no single way to do a lot of stuff. So, enough said by me. What I'd like to do now is turn over to Ted. Ted has a lot of Crosleys. He's had a lot of Crosleys, and I've seen where he keeps his Crosleys. It's full. So, Ted, give us a little background on how you got started with Crosley and all of that, please.
I got started in Crosley. I was working on military trucks, and the last one tore me up pretty good. And I had a friend that just kept pestering me about buying one. And at the time, money was tight. I was just starting a family. I found my first Crosley for $500. It was a station wagon. And through that, I ended up restoring the whole car for $1,200 with the price of the car. And I thought that was great.
So, I'm just curious, what was it like when you got it $500?
The roof was stoved in, needed body work. Mechanically, I ended up rebuilding the motor and going right through the whole thing, but the parts were fairly inexpensive. I would think I was able to reuse the original brake cables, which was amazing.
Is that right? And how old was that? What kind of car was that? I mean,
It
which
was a 48 station wagon.
okay, the most popular. Got it.
Yep.
Uh, anyway, so Ted's example of Ted, how many do you have right now? Crosleys.
Right now I'm about 18 cars deep.
I've seen his collection. Oh my goodness. They're stacked and they're neatly tucked into his little pole barn. It's pretty funny, but it says a lot about Crosley and storage. Now we're going to talk about, we've got 8 areas of why we'd like to encourage you to get a Crosley. And the first one is just plain old affordable entry, a standout value. Running Crosleys right now in fairly decent shape can be about $4,000 or $5,000. They are not carrying great dollars right now, and yet you can get into the car, drivable, etc. Ted, what is your experience with the affordability of Crosley?
As the markets are going right now, like you said, they are getting cheaper. You can probably even find one for about $3,500. You might have to do a little work to them, but the hardest part is once you get them set up, they run like sewing machines. They're great little cars.
So what kind of work might you be doing on a car that's 3,500, 4,000?
3500 probably set for a long time, so you're probably gonna have to tune it up. Carburetor adjustment, small stuff like that. Nothing real major. Brakes maybe from sitting, and all that stuff's readily available.
So what's interesting is just what Ted said is the car, you're not going to spend $10,000 to get it started. You're not going to spend $15,000 to get a project car. You can get in it for 3,500 or so. Now I've got a spreadsheet of all my little repairs, but it's not an arm and a leg. It's $20 here, 40 here. Something breaks, you refix it. So the affordability is definitely. I mean, I've experienced as well. The next item that we thought is it's great for teaching and learning. This car is not that complicated. It's pretty basic. Ted, tell us about what you've learned because you've been helping people for decades keep their cars on the road, get them running. Tell us about
Well,
that.
well, teaching and learning is I like it a lot because usually when you have one, another owner will show up and you start having problems and you could bounce your problems off them and they're more than happy to show you how to get these things going. And especially with a kid, what they got to realize is you don't have to make a concourse restoration. You make it to your liking because the car was never worth a lot of money and it never will be worth a lot of money. And that's the beauty of it. So as long as you get the car running and going, you got it the way you like it, you're perfect. And you'll
Now,
find most owners are real receptive to that.
now I got a story about Ted. He doesn't know I'm going to tell this, but I have a really good friend who called Ted. Ted is one of our three vendors. And about 8 years ago, this friend of mine who ended up buying a Crosley called Ted and he got off the phone and said, man, do you know this Ted guy? At the time, I didn't know him that well. He goes, he spent an hour and 15 minutes with me and I didn't buy anything from him. Now, what I want to say to that, the reason I'm mentioning it, maybe embarrassing Ted, is that's the kind of community we are. That's the kind of community we want to support. That is, you got a question, we're there to help. There's no snottiness. I know people in other hoity-toity clubs and everybody knows the answer. I think Ted's point, I'm calling him out, is because he's a regular guy. That's who we are. We want to help people get their cars running, keep them running, and not trying to make money. That's not the goal. Next one, parts availability. Well, Ted's one of the vendors, but what I'd like to say first and then turn over to Ted is, most of the drivetrain engine stuff is readily available. Believe it or not, the first thing people ask me if I'm at a car show is, hey, man, where do I get the parts? That's it, the first thing. And so I think the point to know is it's hard to find them, but the three major vendors do have quite a bit available. Ted, what do you want to say about parts? Because you had an interesting thought about that.
Well, parts are pretty much readily available. We pretty much have just about everything you need for the cars. But the other interesting point about this car is these cars were known for the people who owned them were thrifty.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I've been at shows to where you may have the perfect part on that shelf for the car, but they feel it's too much money. And they'll go out and make their own part. Now, the neat thing about that is you run into one of these guys and they'll tell you how to do it. So you don't get jammed up. You can, it makes you look at stuff totally different, which is awesome because then it brings more parts to the table. And there's nothing wrong with that.
What's interesting is there are very few parts vendors for Crosley, and as a member of our organization, we want to support our vendors, keep them going. But Ted's point is really pretty honest about, hey man, we want to keep the cars on the road and running. We don't want you to sit in the garage for 3 or 4 weeks to wait for that part. I've made my own. They weren't the best. I had some leaky radiator stuff, but it made me get through 2 weeks of waiting for the real part. So important to remember that. And now you're hearing this from one of our vendors. Now, the next one, another thing I want to mention is there are three major vendors, and they are mentioned at our website and our newsletters, etc. And I think you'll find they're all really helpful in advising, consulting, giving you parts information without pushing the parts at you. Ted, anything else you want to add about that? Anything else you want to add about that?
No, that's pretty much, I'm happy with what you said.
Now the next one is I love the title here. It's a head turner. Those of have Crosleys, we go to cruise nights, we go to parades. People go, I don't know what that is, but that's really, they'll say sometimes cute. I don't deal with cute real well, but I tell them it's manly, even though it's little. But generally, it's a head turner. People want to know what it is. Ted, tell us your story. I know you've got one about
Okay.
experience it. Yeah,
When I
please.
first got my wagon done, I brought it to a real big car show up this way, and they put me in the 30 or in the 40s class, which I had a Packard 30s and 40s. The chrome on the Packard had more money into his car than my whole car. The funny part about it was everybody flocked my car. Everybody was curious about the car. They wanted to know about the car. So I'm talking my head off, telling everybody. Well, the guy in the Packard next to me got real mad that no one was paying attention to his beautiful car. He got in his car and moved it down the other end of the field and told me, why was he wasting his time next to my car? No one even knew he existed. That
How
made
do
me
you?
feel pretty good because I only had $1,200 into this car.
Oh, that's the same car, the one that you had.
Yeah.
Bucks. Dang, and I'm sure it was concourse ready, right, Ted?
Oh, no, not even close. And that was the beauty part about it. It was to my liking.
Well, again, so the point is the cars are normal, regular. They attract regular people. They're not hoity-toity. I've got a similar story. I was at a car show, and behind me was a 1955 Ford Victoria, Crown Victoria with was turquoise and white. And that car show was a small one, but there were people all around me, and I didn't even notice the car behind me until we're packing up to go home. So I went over to the gentleman who owned the car and I said, "Man, your car is gorgeous. It is my most favorite car." And he looked at me like this and he goes, "No one talked to me all night. They were all talking about your car." And they got in his car and I thought, conversation's over. So, Ted, again, I didn't ask for the attention. It was just a lot of fun. And again, people are engaged.
One more thing about the restorations on these cars. You got to realize these things weren't perfect from the factory. They let them go out with fenders flapping, welds on the windshield. You could still see the weld where they welded it together. And when you forget that and try and over restore it, it's not a good thing.
I got a comment about that. When I first tried to adjust my driver's door, I was thinking there's an adjustment, a hinge adjustment or something. No, the instructions said get a large 2x4 and bend it upward. Now, that told me a lot about this is the car. You got what you got. So,
Yep.
Ted, there's a lot of adaptation to this. Again, no hoity-toity standard. I didn't want my door dragging. And I had to bend it up. Now, next one is Ted. I'm sure we all have a lot of these, but the personal memories. This car attracts people who've seen them. I find if people are in their mid 60s or older, they look at the car and smile. And I always, instead of talking, I look at them and say, there's a Crosley story in there somewhere. Ted, what do you have in terms of how people respond with their memories tied to the car?
Well,
And
one of the best ones I had when they saw my wagon, a guy came up to me. This guy was a big guy. I remember him because he was like 6'4", 6'5". And he comes up and he goes, when I was a kid, my mother had one of these. And she used to pick us up and my friends from school. So she goes, you got to picture this. He goes, it was my mom, me, and 5 other kids in this car. Every day we'd come to this big hill. At the bottom of the hill, we all had to get out of the car. My mother would drive the car up top of the hill so it'd make it. And then we'd all pile back in the car and proceed home. He said that car would never make it up with all us in it. And that was his memory.
I wasn't going to tell this, but my people asked me how I got a Crosley. Well, my dad had one, and my dad had one when I was about 3. And all I remember, here's the only story. My dad was in the Navy in World War II. And all I remember is my mother said to my father, "Don't use Navy language." Well, one day my dad was going to work as a baker in the afternoon, and he came in the house and he was using words I had never heard before. And my mother was saying, "Don't say those words in front of your little boys." And I kept thinking, Dad's really angry. Okay, or he's mad, get out of the way. So I found out that my dad's neighbors were friendly and they took his Crosley, and we lived in an unincorporated area, and they put his Crosley over a ditch, a culvert, and his car was stuck in the middle and he couldn't get either way because they lifted it into the ditch. So my dad was using Navy language. And that's really all I remember about his Crosley, but it wasn't really a pleasant experience for him. I think he eventually got to go to work, but anyway, the other thing is we just mentioned this, the personal memories, but it's also a story magnet. That people have lots of fond memories about those kinds of things we just shared. Ted, any other ones that come to mind regarding a story about, because we all got a bunch. Go.
Yeah, well, my personal story with my wagon was that car, it had a bad gas tank in it. And it would kick rust up every once in a while and shut the car off. And I didn't realize it when I first got it, but we'd get stuck, and my poor wife got stuck pushing that car more miles than it ever ran. And I'm thankful that she was so patient, sort of drew us closer together because it was like our running joke. How far would I have to push it this day?
Well, you remind me, well, pushing it. I have a son-in-law who doesn't know anything about cars. And I was taking for a ride in my station wagon that was just running. I had carburation problems. And we got to a small hill in our town and it died out. And so I said, let's turn the corner. And he knew nothing about cars. I said, I'll tell you what, we're going to push the car. I'm going to jump in the car. And then you're going to jump in and I'm going to start it by popping the clutch in second gear. So we're running and he's very athletic and he's pushing and I jump in the car and I yell at him, Brendan, get in the car. He gets in the car. It starts choking, sputtering. It starts and he's like this and he looks over at me. Is that how you start this thing? So there's a little more going on. He didn't think it was that sophisticated. So the next one, Ted, I know you can give us a little enlightenment, but the thing about the Crosleyan is it's really a tip of American innovation. The Crosley company developed so many different things. Ted, enlighten us. Tell us a few things that you remember, or even the things about the cars that made it different.
Well, with Crosley, he was the known as the Henry Ford of radio. He made AM radio affordable for everybody. He had the biggest, most powerful radio station in Cincinnati. He did all sorts of things for the military when World War II was on. Shelver door refrigerators, the shelves on the doors of a refrigerator. That was him. He's the guy who developed all that. His cars were way ahead of their time. No one wanted them, but you had a car that got you 40 miles to the gallon back then, and they just didn't want them.
Well, as Ted knows, the engine had an overhead valve that was run by gears rather than a timing belt. The Hotshot or the 49, is that 49, Ted?
49.
Where they put, what do you call it? Disc brakes on, even though they didn't stay on because of corrosion, etc. early on in that.
Yeah.
But again, now I got a favorite story about the Shelvador refrigerator that I read recently. So Crosley was the only one who put shelves in the refrigerator. And the article I read said that all the other major brands, Admiral, Maytag, whatever, when they showed the door of the refrigerator open with the spokes model, they had the spokes model standing in front of the door because they didn't have any shelves. Isn't that great? Just because they were embarrassed, and Crosley was the only one that had the shelves, so they had to cover that missing piece of shelves in the door with spokes models. I thought that was pretty funny. Next one, Ted. I know you got this one going. They're easy to store. This is our last one. Ted, tell us how you store your Crosleys.
Okay, best way to do this, if you have a two-car garage, you can get 10 in there easily.
I don't believe that.
Well, yeah, you can. What you do is you go to Harbor Freight, you buy the cheap little wood dollies. They're $7 to $10 a piece, and you get those, and those act as skates for your car. You put them under the wheels, you can roll your car in any direction, and you can pretty much put them in and have a little room left over to walk with all that. It's just, it's because they're so narrow, it's amazing what you can do in a two-car garage.
So is that right? Legit? You've gotten that many in your two-car?
I've got 10 in there, no problem at all. So right now in my 40-foot building, I have 12 cars.
So what do you do when you want the one in the back?
You got to move everything out of your way. That's the only thing that stinks, and that's why everything but one car of mine runs right now, and that's why I keep everything running so I can move them in and out to get out what I want.
My wife told me that after I got my second Crosley, she said, I don't care where you put your cars in the winter. I get the right bay. And so now, I can't get 10 in, but I got 2 stuffed into a 110-year-old garage. That's pretty tight, but they get my car sheltered and my wife is happy. She has her side of the garage. So I think it's, let's see. So
No.
Anything else, Ted? Anything else about
Yeah, one more thing, a
Sure.
warning. No one owns one Crosley. When you buy one Crosley, you always end up with the second Crosley somehow. So just forewarn, when you get your first one, be ready because they do multiply.
Let me ask you a question. When did you get your second Crosley? You told your story about your first one.
It had to be within 6 months after I got my first one because now you're at the car shows and people tell you where they are.
Oh.
And, I had a guy come up to me. There was one in New York. Come get it. I don't want it in my yard anymore. And that's what happened.
So to that point, keep alert with our Captivated by Crosleys. We're just starting some things out, but we're going to try to be matching cars and availability with folks and posting them. They're available on other websites, but I think our goal is probably to screen things so people don't get taken, that we give them some advice on how to get them and what to look for. Ted, anything else before I wrap this up?
I think we're good here.
What I want to do is say we hope these tips have helped you a little bit to look why the car's attractive. Consider with your family members. It's not a lot of money. Might keep your marriage together. Maybe I don't know, but
Draw your kids in, help get them mechanical
yeah,
with them. It's awesome.
it's easy to work on. It's fun, guaranteed. The next thing is what do you call it? It's a fun project car. Please consider it. Again, stay tuned. In our upcoming programs, we will highlight what to look for in a Crosley if you make a phone call and what to ask people. A second one, we have plans for a walk around, an interior walk around, where we'll show you what to look for as you walk around the car or open the doors and look in the interior. And then we will be beginning to deal with some tech tips on specific areas like brakes and things that the goal here is to equip anyone with information, not to hoard it and keep it to ourselves. For Ted and myself and all of us at Captivated by Crosley and the Crosley Car Owners Club, I want to thank you. Please stay tuned. Look for our website, captivatedbycrosley.com, for more information. Click on join. It gets you nothing but our newsletter that's free. And we really, really look forward to spreading the news about Crosley and keeping our cars on the road. Thank you, Ted. Thanks, everybody. Looking forward to talking to you.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to hit subscribe, drop a comment, and check the link in the description for more Captivated by Crosley content. Our mission is simple: promote the Crosley brand and help keep these cars on the road where they belong. And don't stop here. Go watch another Captivated video. It helps YouTube show our Crosley adventures to even more people. Happy motoring!